Hi there, welcome to the Perfume Experience. My name is Rodney and get ready for another episode. So today we are going to review a fragrance from the house of YSL, and we've done YSL Y before. So today we are going to talk about YSL Tuxedo, a fragrance that's associated with the word date night fragrance. Unlike the iris fragrance that are usually associated with date night fragrances, this one is got a different note blend, and this fragrance is also considered something like you can move from a boardroom meeting to a dance room very quickly with this kind of a fragrance. So we are going to talk about YSL Tuxedo, the scent profile, and if we have a worthy clone of it. And on that note, let's get started. YSL Tuxedo is a chypre fragrance for men and women. This was launched in the year 2015, and the perfumer of this particular fragrance is, let's just call her Juliet K. And the notes on this particular fragrance are of violet leaf, coriander, you have patchouli, you have rose, you have lily of the valley, and then you have amber, you have black pepper, and you also have vanilla, right? Now with this kind of a blend, the perfume really takes upon a very spicy note at the top, and then as it transitions after a few minutes into the rose and the lily, this particular fragrance can be called as a very unique blend, and I think it's one of those blends that is difficult to impersonate, okay, and that's one of those things that you will notice in this particular review as well. This particular fragrance, YSL Tuxedo, is from the line of fragrances from the house of YSL called the Wardrobe Collection, or the perfume wardrobe from the house of YSL, based on the YSL line of clothing. So there are other fragrances in this particular series such as Kaban, Kaftan, Trench, and Saharin. All of these are in some way or the other a type of clothing. So I have a decant of this particular fragrance here, and let's put a couple of sprays just to get the whiff. So the fragrance opens up with that warm spicy note of especially patchouli, coriander and pepper kind of a note, and you have a very beautiful light airiness to that, okay, and very soon, in a few minutes time, it transitions into the middle notes, and I think that's where the beauty of this particular fragrance is, and the heart of this particular fragrance is where the floral notes of the rose and lily of the valley come together, okay. Now when you look at coriander, when you look at violet leaf, rose, lily of the valley, and then the base notes such as vanilla or ambergris and the amber element of this particular fragrance, and you combine all of that, and what you get is a very complex fragrance. The middle note of this fragrance, the rose and the lily of the valley, is where that particular note blend is what makes this particular fragrance a date night fragrance, okay. While it opens up on that spicy note, it's that beautiful floral blend that makes it very complicated, and I think that's that element of this particular fragrance which is very difficult to copy. And whatever clones that we have tried today, when I look at the scent profile, I feel this was one element that was difficult to impersonate, right? So on that note, I think this is a very good fragrance. This is a skin close fragrance and not a projection based. You can wear about 4 to 5 or even 6 sprays, and it will kind of project maybe just about 1 to 2 feet, a beautiful bubble probably just around you. And the longevity on this particular fragrance is about 2 to 3 hours time, and whether it was on strips that I tried or on skin, I have had this fragrance with me for last couple of days, and I've done at least 4 test sprays, that is 4 times sprays of at least 2 into 4, which is about 8 sprays at different points of time, and at all the intervals I kind of got only about 2 to 3 hours of performance, right? So not a very long lasting fragrance, but a very, very beautiful fragrance. Now in terms of our the oils that we have for this particular fragrance, so I have quite a few today. So I have Tuxedo from the house of Yasmin, I have Black Flag from the house of Scentedelic, I have Tuxedo from the house of Muzna, I have the Tux from the house of Maham, and I also have Maison Alhambra's Kismet, and this is sponsored by Fragzone, and you can contact Fragzone for any kind of decant related requests that you have. He'd be most glad to help you out on those. Now having said this, let's look at the scent profile of our oils and let's see how they perform against the OG. Now in terms of scent profile, I first tried Yasmin and Muzna, and I tried Scentedelic. Okay, I went with 3 and the OG of 2 sprays each. And what I found is Yasmin and Muzna are they open up with that coriander patchouli note, and that's a very linear note that they carry forward. Okay, a good opening, good profile, but then I think the lightness what the OG has is not something that they've been able to carry, but the DNA is definitely been there. Okay, and all throughout. Now when you look at Scentedelic also opens quite similar. The only difference is what I found is it's got a little bit of creaminess, okay, in the opening, so it's a little more milder. It's a little more creamy, or this got, you can say, a little more lighter, okay, and not as sharp as the other 2 are. Now that's on the opening note, right? Now if you also look at Kismet, also has this one has got a little bit of a alcohol blast for some reason, but then after that it kind of is very light. Okay, it's very close to the DNA of the OG. For some reason, Al Maham was more spicier than any one of them. It has that coriander note on the patchouli note for a very long time, and it was not very pleasant, so to say. For some reason, it carries on this note for a very long time and transition much later into the other notes. Right now, with all of them, I have noticed that apart from Scentedelic, that they're more on the DNA of the YSL Tuxedo part, which is the coriander, the patchouli, and that element with the amber. That's that DNA of this particular fragrance, and they are there on that note for long. The only one which was able to actually transition into the rose and lily of the valley note is only the Scentedelic one. Now in Scentedelic and in the OG, you are able to smell this very clearly in terms of how that transition happens. While I would still say the OG is a lot more lighter and very clear in those note sense, this does a fairly good job as well. Now overall, if I were to say, even Kismet has a good scent profile, especially after some time it becomes good, but I would say that the only one which was really able to capture that heart of this particular fragrance was Scentedelic in terms of scent profile. Now in terms of performance for our clones, what we are getting is an average performance, just like the OG. You get about 2.5 hours to 3 hours time, and around about that time most of them become powdery. Only Scentedelic lasted a little longer than that, close to about 3.5 hours time, but the last half hour is a little more powdery. But the others 2.5 hours at max, around about that 2nd hour to 3rd hour mark, it's kind of getting into the powdery zone. And this is like I said, on 2 sprays, on strip and on the skin as well, and I've done this about 3 times just to validate if this is the exact same performance. Now in terms of presentation, the story is okay in terms like all of them have got very simple looking bottles, be it Muzna, be it Yasmin, and Al Maham as well. Scentedelic has got a slightly better bottle because of the artwork, and of course Kismet definitely rocks a much better bottle and a good presentation as well, right? So that's on the presentation front. Now in terms of pricing, if we were to look at Yasmin and Muzna is about 800 rupees for 50 ml, and Al Maham is 1500 for 50 ml, and Scentedelic is about 1400 rupees for 50 ml, and then you have Kismet, which is approximately the lowest that I could find was about, I think, 1550 for the 100 ml, whereas I think it's about 1900 on Flipkart, right? So obviously Kismet and Muzna and all of them are on the same value proposition, except for Scentedelic and Al Maham, which are almost twice the price factor, right? So that's in terms of their pricing. Now let's look at the ratings of these particular fragrances and find out which one is closer to the OG. Now for the ratings. Now for the scent profile, Yasmin and Muzna get a 7 because they carry a linear performance on this particular fragrance. They open with the top notes and then move into the base notes, and there is nothing on the heart notes, which is the essence of this particular fragrance. Now Kismet on the other hand has got a bit of an alcohol blast, but then it becomes lighter and it is more airy, little similar to the OG, but then the mid notes are again not very pronounced. They are also okay, and it also is good smelling on the base notes as well. Now Al Maham, like I said, has got a very strong spice top note, which lasts for a really long time, and that also transitions into the base note but not into the mid notes. Now the only one which was able to get into the mid notes of this particular fragrance, and that note is really beautiful, was Scentedelic. Okay, so Scentedelic gets 8, the rest of them get a 7. Now in terms of performance on this particular fragrance, like I said, 2.5 hours to 3 hours is the average. Only Scentedelic was able to last a little longer. Okay, so Scentedelic again there gets a 8. Now for presentation, Yasmin, Muzna and Maham get a 7, Scentedelic gets a 8, and of course Kismet gets a 9 for a very good looking bottle and nice presentation as well. Now in terms of value for money, Muzna, Yasmin and Kismet get a 8 because they are at about 800 rupees for 50 ml, and if you look at Scentedelic and Maham, they are a little more higher, so they both of them get about 7. Right now, what this does is it brings the total up to a point where Kismet and Scentedelic have a tie at 31 each. Okay, now how I would look at this is Scentedelic is 50 ml for 1400 rupees. It's got a good scent profile, it has got the right type of notes that you would want to get. It's got a creamy opening unlike the OG, but then it's got the heart mid notes and the base notes carried very well, and it also lasts a little longer. Now Kismet on the other hand carries the DNA of YSL Tuxedo very well, has lightness and comes at a 100 ml bottle for almost the same price tag of about 1500 rupees. Right now, thereby also makes a very good proposition. Right now, on that note, I would say that the pick for this particular fragrance hit, which is Tuxedo, we are looking at two options that you can consider. One is Scentedelic, okay, Black Flag from Scentedelic, and second is you can consider Kismet based on what your requirement would be. If you want to go with the scent profile and the notes, and you want that beautiful blend from the spice to the flowery notes along with that amber note all throughout, then you should definitely consider Scentedelic's Black Flag. Right, but if you want a very good looking bottle and more juice and close to 90% of the DNA of Tuxedo, then you can definitely consider Kismet. Now I think this can be called as a part 1 of Tuxedo test, because I really want to look at the other option also, like the Tux from Maison Alhambra, or Rocher's Moustache as well can be looked at another option. Or if you know any other house that also makes a good alt of Tuxedo, do let me know, and so that I can consider doing another test. Okay, so my pick for the Tuxedo would be either you can go in for Scentedelic or Kismet, like I said, but also you can definitely consider taking the OG, because I think the OG is just absolutely beautiful, and it's a wonderful fragrance to try out, and it's something that you should definitely give it a try to see the complexity of the blend and what makes that heart note so wonderful to sniff. Right, so if you like the content that I bring, please do like and subscribe, because your like and your subscription makes a huge difference to my motivation levels, and look forward for more content coming soon. So we have Ganymede, we have Perfumo, Acqua di Perfumo and Nishane series also coming up soon, so stay tuned. On that note, my name is Rodney. Take care, love, peace, bye now.